waiting for YouTube. I'll be with you guys in a second, and me and Amanda are here as well. Just a second. As usual, just waiting for YouTube. That's our like little technical wait usually there. Good, it's working. Awesome. So welcome to episode 49. That's our like one episode to the last one of this season for now. So thank you so much for being here. As you're probably going to see, the theme is about why we're here. Like that's a good question. Like I think it came up, but also as we were talking just before we come live, we're here, of course, to heal, to transform, as a soul, as a spirit, as however you call it. And there is a part of us that it has, there is a spectrum. If you search online as well, you're probably going to look into the law of attraction, vibration, frequency, and everything else. And actually, that connects to science somehow. They can see the connection between the neurons and the vibration that creates and so on in there. But each emotion has a different frequency, like in a radio, for example. So let's say love could be the highest frequency on the top of that, where it's like connecting with everything and so on. And then you get some of the bottom ones, which could be guilt and shame. And this came up in quite a few courses that I've done in terms of law of attraction and so on. I was talking to Amanda, and if you're familiar with EFT, which I used for a long time as well, emotion freedom technique, and Amanda used that as well, you're going to have that spectrum of emotions, and you're going to, as you do the tapping, you can kind of, go through that scale and everything. And sometimes, like, for example, emotions like anger has a longer, a stronger vibration than guilt and shame. And then for this episode specifically, I feel talking about shame is a powerful one that we tend to hide, we tend to put it away, we tend to say, oh, it's a low vibration, we're judging that, what I mean, I shouldn't be feeling that, I shouldn't be there, and all the stuff. And I love the way Amanda beautifully, kind of, bring it to your heart and kind of you connect with that. Is almost, there's another analogy, I'm just going to bring that on as well, that I read from The Dark Side of the Light Chasers from Debbie Ford. It's one of the books I read about 4 years ago, which really opened up my mind. And then she talks about this castle, this beautiful castle that you have, a magical castle when you were born, and you have all these beautiful rooms and everything else. And then as you grow up, then someone said like, oh, you shouldn't say that. Then you close that door of this one. And then, oh, you shouldn't do this. And then you close that door. And then you start kind of having this massive castle with like very little rooms because of shame and guilt and everything else. No one enters here. This is a very dark place. You shouldn't go there. You shouldn't go there. And that's what kind of guilt and shame can do. And I know the power of, kind of working with guilt and shame and transforming and releasing. And there's a work from, I forgot that her name. She works with like being vulnerable. Brene Brown, she works a lot with that as well, which is like being vulnerable, bringing, the shame out, bringing the guilt out, and there's power, there's courage that comes up with that as well. So that's the topic. That's what we're going to be discussing and talking. And I'll hand the ball to Amanda in a second.
Oh, good morning. Oh, hello, whoever's watching us, whatever time you're watching, it's lovely to have you here. And yeah, I love the way you encapsulate it and describe it. It's beautiful, isn't it? And yeah, what a wonderful way to end that introduction. It is that vulnerability, isn't it? It's vulnerability and courage, because those doors were shut because for some reason we were shamed, or we were told we weren't good enough, or whatever reason. And then we have to keep that door shut, and we can't anybody see that door because we're really ashamed of that. Whatever that is in our life, whether it is we don't feel worthy of love, or careers, or success, or relationships, or love, whatever it is. And it's that time that we've all got those shut doors. And then what happens is, not only do we worry that if we open up and say to somebody, I've got this shut door and I'd kind of like to open it up? Can I have some help with you? We think, oh God, I can't tell that person because I'm ashamed I've got this locked door. So, oh my God, I'm going to be judged again for having some shame. And they might abandon me because they'll think there's something wrong with me, or and there can be that feeling around, it can be around a certain subject in our lives or our identity, where there's just a core feeling of there's something a bit wrong with me. And if there's lots of shame there, there's nothing wrong with you at all. It's just because, for whatever reason, we've taken on thoughts and ideas that say that we're at fault, that we're kind of faulty in some way. We've done something wrong. And it's quite a core belief in there. And then we feel guilty and ashamed. We've got shame, and it's almost can be too painful to go there. But I just think it's such a beautiful time now for us all to say, yeah, let's start being open and vulnerable and courageous with each other. And you start to trust, you get an intuition of who you can do that with. Because, yeah, there will be people that are still very much stuck in their own judgment. They're not looking at their shame. So to feel better, I judge others because that makes the ego feel better. And there's no judgment in that. That's kind of what happens. But yeah, when we find an environment, or we even learn by the sort of stuff we've been sharing, to go within, to find your heart, to find that deeper place, to find that good source. I'm happy to call it God and divinity. Some people say source, universe. I'm not on my own with this. And could I open my heart to myself and say, almost like a big sister? Melanie Tony Evans calls it self-parenting, self-partnering. But for me, it always feels like when my higher self comes in, it's like my self-parent comes in, and there's a part of me that then I can go deeper with it and say, God, hey, honey, bless you. I can see there's something here that, oh, I'm so sorry you've been in that dark place for so many years. And I'm sorry I couldn't be there with you. I didn't know. But God, please, come into the light. Please do. And yeah, for me, yes, the way I work is, once I process that and go deeper, I do go into that deep, peaceful, loving stillness within. And that's when our bodies calm down. We're not reacting to the thought. We feel safe to look at it. And we realize, gosh, there's just a part of me that's been desperately locked in as you were saying, in that castle in a dark room. There's no light in it. It doesn't know what it did wrong. It's scared. It's confused. And we just open the door. And then there's a be a process to how we do it. And sometimes, yes, we do it with somebody else, to guide us how to do that initially. Or you might find just having that courage and bravery and watching people like us, because there's lots of people online teaching this now that are sharing not just an instruction manual, but we're saying we're doing it as well. So it's not just an instruction manual we're giving you here, we're doing it. So we're living it with you, which is how we know how to do it. So and then you start to see who you really were. So that little thing locked in that dark cupboard, when it comes into the light, oh my God, it's magnificently beautiful. And you think, it's insane that I could ever think I was anything else. And that's almost the insanity of the conditioned mind, that it could ever think it's anything other than bliss, joy, love, prosperity, abundance, success, creative, uniquely blessed, infinitely valuable. And when you clear things, you sort of think, and it comes back into your heart, and things that aren't ours get released back into the hands of God, or universal sent, get back to source. And sometimes, yeah, we have to hand things back to the people it belongs to for their healing. It's not dumping it on people, but you think, actually, yeah, there's something they need. Maybe I've taken something on protecting that person, but actually part of their healing is them having that back. And that's not you know, have this, you get. It's not that. It's not done in anger, but there's a sort of strength there. There's a love there that says, God, I've got such faith in you that actually I think you're ready now to have this back, whatever it is, whatever somebody did, whether it's an abuse or they offloaded or they sort of projected stuff onto you and you took on that belief. And we say everybody's an amazing soul. So, and people are ready at different times to handle different things. So again, there's no forcing. But if you're someone that's listening to this and saying, yeah, but you might almost be saying, God, I've done years of work on myself and I don't want to keep having to do this and nothing's working. And it may be that there's maybe, you know, you are doing things like sort of, you know, more, you know, like EFT and Reiki and yoga and they're beautiful things. I use them, but it might be that there's something that you're saying, I don't want to go into. I did work with somebody once who was a beautiful person, but she was so angry with the person that she felt had given her the limiting beliefs that the very thing that was stopping her going into it was, why should I heal this? I didn't do this. I'm not doing this work. I didn't, and you're like, I know, but on some level, we came here to heal this, and it's that responsibility, that choice thing, isn't it? Well, I can keep saying until that person comes to me and says, I am so sorry I did this to you. While we're waiting for the world and others to fix us, say the words we need to hear, that's when we can stay stuck. But when we're able to say, well, maybe that person's died, you know, maybe that person, you're not in there in your life anymore. Maybe it's not healthy for you to contact that person. Maybe it is so toxic and abusive. But that's when we realize, you know, what if I can provide the healing that that person can't? What if I take responsibility? I'm not a powerless victim. And also that entitlement, you know, we're able to look at all these parts of ourselves that we're sort of, the self-righteousness, whatever it is, we can look at it with love and say, I can see you just trying to protect me from going somewhere that really hurts. It's okay. But it's having that strength of, hey, do you know what? I think it's time to be healthy, happy, abundant, living in unconditional love, feeling the joy of who we are, the creativeness of who we are. And that's what we're meant to be.
I feel, Amanda, like it's so relevant as well, because we can be in different stages of that. Like, yes, there is the guilt and shame where you can isolate yourself and you're not, you know, yeah, you you hiding yourself and you feel limited, you can't be yourself and everything. And then there is that awareness of like as you said, where, oh, I catch this limiting belief or this, you know, paralyzing thought or this condition from, I know, from my mom or from my dad or from whoever it came up. And then it's interesting that you can go into almost like denial and like you're like, or blaming again. You see like, oh, but why should I, you know, sort it out? Why didn't they sort it out? Do you see what I mean? With their parents or my grandparents and so on, because that kind of keeps coming from, you know, generations sometimes.
Yeah.
But the more we kind of handle the power, and I say this a lot to my clients as well, the more you handle your power to someone else's hands, then you can't do anything with it. Then,
No.
and it's like when you don't take the responsibility, and there is a difference, we keep saying this, between taking the blame or taking responsibility for something, because even blaming yourself, it's a way of kind of pushing it away. Do you see? It's like it feels like a martyr, but then it's another identity that it's got to start to build up. But it's just paying attention. I take responsibility. I will do something about it. I found, okay, there is this thought, there is this limiting belief, there is this condition now that's been going on for years into my family. And I now have the choice, if they haven't chosen, or if they, wasn't done for them, I have the choice to do something about it.
Yeah.
And I see this a lot. Like I was telling to Amanda yesterday that I had a conversation with a friend in Brazil a couple of weeks ago, and he used to live in London. He used to share apartment with adults and everything else. And then it's almost like a common sense that you've done, you use the fryer pan, you use the dishes and everything else, you wash and you put it back, and you so the next person can use it. However, when he moved back to Brazil and he moved back with his brothers, which were younger brothers, he was like extremely upset. Do you see? With I come to the kitchen, why is the fry pan, with all the plates and everything in the sink, nothing is done, the broom is on the floor, why they don't sort it out? And then he went to the psychologist because this was really affecting his emotional stuff as well, because he was a quite organized person and everything. And then the psychologist was like, they are just in their right. They can choose not to do it, and there's nothing that you know what I mean, gonna do or force them to do. It's not for you to force them, because that's their boundaries and their way of living and everything else. Now you have the choice. Do you have the conditions to actually move into another apartment, another house, then move and do your own thing?
Yeah.
And then he did, and then things start to change. And now he can still love his brothers, regardless of the beliefs, regardless of how they live and everything else. He doesn't need to go into the apartment and get upset with all the stuff, but they can go out and play football, for example, and have fun in
Oh,
that way.
I really love that. I love that because it's sort of really, it's quite a simple but a beautiful, deep encapsulation, isn't it, of what we're saying, that if you're, you said, oh, I'm going to be beholden to, I expect them to be a certain way, and why aren't they respecting me? And God, can you imagine if he'd stayed there? God, it would have been horrific. And I do think it is that, isn't it? It's when we're able to sort of say, I've got this expectation of my environment or people around me, and until they live up to that, um, I'm going to stay, and I'm not going to do anything until they stay. And it can just be something like they're not washing the pots, but it can be abusive. It can be abuse where we're staying somewhere and saying, well, I'll be okay. Because, I mean, if someone's abusing you, of course, technically they're in the wrong. Of course, you could say, how thoughtful of his brothers to not wash the pots. I mean, they should. That's what they should do. They weren't. And
And trying to force that. And I know the other analogy that I use a lot is that lion, the cub and the lion. You might have, had a great time with the cub, the baby lion, and everything else, but now it's a lion. Do you see what I mean? And if you stay around the lion, it will hurt both of you. Like, either you're gonna kill the lion because you're gonna be threatened by, what I mean, the being threatened by dying about what the bites and hurt by it and everything else, or you're gonna get hurt from it as well. But the choice of staying in the lion environment is ours. So
yeah,
if there is a situation where, I know that we mentioned abuse quite a few times, but it can be anything in life. If there is a situation where there is let's say we're talking about, a belief or a condition of like, oh, people from our family always have this, do you see what I mean? Or we believe on this and so on. And you start to step out of this, you have a choice to create a different environment and actually invite those people that are ready to actually be on that environment as well with you,
yeah.
rather
And
than forcing them to change in that way.
I love that, Junior, because and then we allow that person to be who they are, and we say, and then also it comes down to that self-honesty, doesn't it? Why why am I in this room with this lion that keeps trying to claw me, bite me, eat me? Why am I in this room? Why am I in this room blaming the lion? Why am I here?
Why
What
do you choose to stay here? Do you see,
why am
like,
I here?
being here, it may be unconscious that you came there and, what I mean? And it's like, oh, I'm here in the room with a lion. Okay. Do I want to do something? It may be that you're being sleepwalking during the night, and then you ended up in the room with the lion. Now you woke up,
Yeah.
you can see there's a lion, you can see that it can hurt you. Now you have a choice. The door is open for you. It's not locked.
Please. Yeah. The door is always open. And I love this. I love the analogies you're bringing here, because and that lion can be limiting belief, can't it? That it can be limiting belief around anything. I'm a failure, I'm not successful, or I'm not attractive, or whatever that it says. And we say, why am I staying here with this thought and this belief? And I think this is where I love the thing about life, because life adores us, and life will say, yeah, you will get to a point where all these limiting beliefs fall away, and you will remember the absolute unlimited beauty that you are. And we're going to keep creating things to help you to see that, but we want you to know that. And I think this is my realization as well, that what when we ask for help with something, we get it. We get it. So if you're saying, I think I'm aware that I've got issues around how I look, I'm going to ask this, I'm going to say to the universe, God, please help me with this, because I can see how this doesn't feel nice. And then we say with it, the creative thing, imagine yourself living in a world where you love everything about every cell of your body. You love, no matter what it looks like or how it appears. And then, yeah, you might decide to do, actually, I think I can lose some weight, or I am going to do some things because I do want to look nice, So it can be amazing how, by asking, looking, investigating, being honest with ourselves, being vulnerable with ourselves, having people in our lives that we trust, that we can process with, and say, not someone that's going to want to fix us or go call that person. So can I just process something with you? I think I've got this thing going on. Because often we can see, can't we, for other people a little bit better than we can see our own blind spots. We can see that person. And when you have someone you can trust, whether it's a therapist, a counselor, a guide, a mentor, a friend, a family member, it's so invaluable sometimes having that person you can say, I think I've got something going on. I think I've got an abnormal normal. Can you help me to kind of see? I've been so living in a room with a lion for so long, I've got so many bites and cuts on me that I think it's become my normal. I don't know which way's up anymore. Could you help me? Show me which way's up? And ask it.
And I feel like there is that analogy as well, that we are mirrors to each other. Like, for me to see myself without the camera, now I can see here because there is a camera, there's a mirroring coming back. And that's why I think when someone else can actually help us to see, oh, there's this, or we can see ourselves in others as well. So
Yeah.
by being in an environment with a therapist, with a counselor, with a friend, or even like, I would say, when we do it, the internal work as well, of like, go and do what we mentioned like few episodes as well, like go to that internal council of like people that we're going to put it in there, God, divinity, or people that already passed away, or even people that you admire. I mean, I always joke with like the Beyonce that came up and everything. They can help you to see things that you couldn't see by yourself, because you are kind of have that mirror, or those mirrors around you, to show, oh, there's love in you, there is beauty in you, there is power in you, there's freedom, there is all the good stuff that you can't see, just being in yourself and not looking around us in that sense. Yeah.
That's beautiful, because I think we've also joked about the loo roll advert that I watched. That it was like, God, I really need to hear that today. And then you're open, you're aware, you become very self-aware, and you're very open to looking. You become more aware, and then you read something and go, oh God, I think I needed to read that. Whereas when we're not aware, a bit like your analogy yesterday, the guy that's on the roof that's in a flood, and God, please save me. And God's going, well, I sent you a helicopter, I sent you a boat. And that's, we become very aware. We become very, I think I need, it's not to trust our intuition. I think I need to read this. I think I need to hear this. What is this? And we are always being sent guidance and care and wisdom. Always, it's just opening our eyes and ears and hearts to see it. You're not on your own.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap up a bit. Today I get to go in a second as well. But guys, I just want to say a massive thank you for, being with us. It's like the 50th, no, 49th episode. There's a 50th one coming up soon as well. And we're gonna give more details. I think the last one we're gonna give a bit more details of what, the intentions, the planning and everything that we're putting up there. Just to give a hint of what we're doing. As I said yesterday as well, Amanda is doing a beautiful work with like all the stuff that you heard here in the alchemy chat, and the kind of connecting to who you really are, the wakey, they will awaken to that moment. You might have been, kind of sleepwalking to that lion room, but how to wake up, how to see the lion, how to choose to get that door. Do you see what I mean? And it's a beautiful work, and like so there's more coming up for you on that way. And for me, I'm in a journey that I'm going to be focusing into the Brazilian market for a bit, like helping like some of the ideas I shared a bit with Amanda yesterday. Is like one of the things that really came through me in one of the nights I was sleeping in Brazil a couple of weeks ago. It was like work more, earn less, and it's that's exactly the idea behind it. Yeah, you heard it right. Work more, earn less. It's just to break some of those patterns that we have inside of us, like, oh, I have to work more to earn more, or if I work less then I earn less. It's actually how we can break those things as well. To begin with, I'm going to start it with my mother language, which is Portuguese, but then I'll bring it over to the UK at some point as well. So that's it. If you like this episode, I know it was about, we start talking about, why we're here, and then why, we talk about shame and guilt. We mentioned a few things that you can do, a few things that we do for ourselves. If this was helpful, let us know that was helpful for you. If there is any questions like, oh, this wasn't so clear or anything else, just let us know in the comments as well. If there's something that, no, I don't agree with that, it's a way of like, always evolving, always kind of, you might be the light, geez, that we needed to see, or you might be waking come on, there is actually a bigger lion there that you haven't seen it yet.
So it's
uh,
all open and communicative, isn't it? We're all here to share.
exactly. So yeah, so thank you so much. And then if you like this, just remember to put that like. If you want to know when the next episode or the next season is coming up and everything, just remember to subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next and the last episode of this season, which is coming up soon as well. Bye for now.
Lots of love. Bye bye for now.
Bye. Bye.